1995, in June 95, I became the regional attorney for the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Asista was part of a national network to end violence against immigrant women, and as part of the network we had an opportunity to hear Bill Tamayo talking about the work that the EEOC was doing around sexual violence in the workplace.
Part of my job was to find out what were the main issues of people in my district that I had to cover. And farm workers around the area told me if there's anything to deal with, it's rape in the fields, that women were being forced to have sex with supervisors to get a job, to keep a job.
The first times that I heard Bill talking about the problem and the issue and how women were being sexually harassed and sexually assaulted at the workplace,
it shocked me. I said, wow, this is really the issue that you have. He says, yes, if there's anything you can do, help us address this.
What we found out is that we had a gap in our services in responding to the needs of survivors when they were being victimized at the workplace.
So, EEOC versus Tamayo and Antle, which is the largest lettuce grower in the world, a farm worker had told us that in order to get hired, she had to have sex with the hiring official on 2 separate occasions, and when she refused later on, she was fired. And that was the kind of case we had been looking for. And so we investigated that case, determined that she had been sexually harassed. We found that other women had been sexually harassed, and we ended up settling that case for $1.855 million, which was a record in the industry for sexual harassment.
In the year 2000, I had the opportunity to represent and the privilege to represent 14 women against the DeCoster farms. And at that time, when I was representing the women and I was interviewing them for the first time, I was entirely missing the key questions to assist them and to be able to get to the root of the crime that they were suffering. It wasn't until the women talked to me on a 3rd visit about having sex in the workplace, because they didn't even have the right wordings to tell us that they were being raped in the workplace, that this came to the front of our priorities. It was an important case that taught us many lessons. The first lesson that we learned from the DeCoster case was that we needed to get the right allies, and we needed to network with the right allies, and the right allies were obviously the EEOC and other government agencies, but also bringing women's rights and immigration rights and labor rights all together, because we were all key components to respond to the needs of survivors of sexual violence in the workplace.
After that, I was conducting a lot of training around the country on how we were able to do this case, and I also trained members of the national network.
When I found out that women were being raped at the workplace, I immediately called Bill Tamayo.
In 2000, I get a phone call from Sonia Parras Konrad, who was then with the Iowa Coalition of Domestic Violence, asking me for help because she had heard about cases in Iowa of women being raped at a place called DeCoster Farms.
And he, in his experience, was able to guide me through the process and assist me. The collaboration was incredible because Bill was doing what the EEOC does very well, which is to immediately intervene, to bring in the strong arm of the government to litigate this kind of cases.
And so I immediately contacted my counterpart at that time, who was the head of Milwaukee's EEOC district, Gene Camp, and I said, Gene, this is the issue. Farm workers are being sexually harassed and raped at DeCoster Farms. It's in your territory. Jump on it. Contact Sonia.
with an army of bilingual advocates and advocates from the Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Iowa Coalition Against Sexual Assault, we were able to provide first crisis services to the survivors to help prepare the women for potential litigation.
The company found out that the EEOC was going to be sending out investigators and lawyers to Iowa, and some of the women who were going to provide testimony to us were threatened with deportation, termination, further harassment by the harassers. And so Jean and her team had to run into federal court to try to get a temporary restraining order to stop any further retaliation against these women so that they could at least cooperate with a federal investigation. The company backed off. We ultimately filed a lawsuit and settled that case for $1.525 billion, with all the money going to the victims.
We were able to also look at the immigration remedies.
This was really the start of a more ongoing collaborative relationship with Sonia's organization, eventually other members of the network, eventually leading to Asista.
So we learned that we needed to network, we needed to collaborate.
And it was also the same network that led to the U visa being passed.
As a result of this case, where women obtained their first U visas in the country, we were able to include the EEOC, the Department of Labor, Wage and Hour, and anybody on the labor side that was going to encounter these kind of cases and other crimes of violence in the workplace as certifiers.
And then in the regulations, the EEOC is specifically listed as one of the federal agencies authorized to certify for the U visa.
We needed to be better prepared at answering questions, and of course that what was truly needed in order to have an impact and to work on prevention and resolving this issue.
That was a major case that showed the prevalence of this problem, and for the EEOC it was important for us to show that we needed to be out there nationwide, working with various organizations to try to address what appears to be a prevalent problem.
So that was a very important case that allowed us to realize that as a movement, we were not truly responding to the needs of immigrant survivors of sexual violence in the workplace. And that's where Asista started prioritizing in our work this problem. We are developing a series of guiding tools that can be used for anyone and everyone in different fields, labor, immigration, women's rights, to raise awareness, to educate the community, to educate service providers, and to continue the work, because there is a huge gap that we must address, and that's one of our priorities.
So it's been a interesting twist since we were doing the VAWA self-petitioning to continue this all the way to the present, dealing with sexual assault in the workplace.